His cleats.
Of Ontario earlier today, earlier this week, we were able to announce a very exciting transition and a pathway for out of addictions. We're calling them homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs, or HEART hubs. And basically, it will allow up to 19 new HEART hubs to be placed in communities across Ontario, application-based. And the concept behind them is to bring all of the organizations together that do really important work in the mental health and addiction space. And that can be services like providing primary care, providing supports on social services, pathways into employment or training. Supportive housing is a really important piece of this announcement, because we know that people who are in treatment, either for their mental health or for addictions, really need that stability of a home and housing. And so $378 million over 3 years will be invested in 19 HEART hubs across Ontario. The other really important piece is we are redesigning, strengthening the current consumption and treatment sites to ensure that sites that are located within 200 meters of a school or a daycare must either transition into a HEART hub, which is of course our desire, or they will have to shut their doors. We cannot have clean, healthy, strong neighborhoods when we have organizations and facilities that are allowing illicit drug use in the same neighborhood as our children go to school. So with that, Shannon, I'm happy to turn it over and take any questions from the floor.
All right, thank you so much. So first I'm going to go to Jasleen with PTC Punjabi.
Hello, Minister. Thank you so much for your time. My question is, when these HEART hubs will be open and fully operational for public to use, and do you plan on releasing the assessment evaluation paper?
Great question, Jasleen. So the short answer is we expect applications to start coming in within the month. We will leave that portal an opportunity for organizations or municipalities to apply until October. Then we will start doing the assessments, and ultimately, whether it is a transition from a CTS site into a HEART hub or new HEART hubs, we are very hopeful that we can start to see some of these open in early 2025.
All right. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Lynn Chen with Yes My Radio.
Thank you, Shannon. Good afternoon, Minister. My question is, could you elaborate how do HEART hubs operate and work compared to previous consumption and treatment services? And what are the key differences between these two approaches? Thank you.
Yeah, great question. And just for clarity, Jasleen, the organizations, the municipalities do know what we want to see in these applications. So first and foremost, we want to be looking at collaborative organizations. So organizations that, for example, primary focus might be social services coming together with primary care teams, with supportive housing partners, of course, with mental health and addiction treatment pathways. The big difference is compassionate care has to go beyond just providing and enabling drug use, illicit drug use in our communities. So what is not going to be part of these HEART hubs is needle exchange, is allowing safe consumption, any piece of actually allowing drug consumption will not be included in these HEART hubs. What will be included is primary care, social services, supportive housing, mental health supports, access to employment, and of course, pathways to treatment so that people can get out of having to use drugs in the province of Ontario.
Thank you.
All right, next I'm going to go to Hamreen with Punjab TV.
Thanks, Shannon. Pleasant afternoon, everybody. Many of the supervised consumption sites were approved by your government in the past, and now the same government is planning to shut them down. Any specific reason to that? Because we also heard that many of the sites that you are planning to shut down were opened and funded by the Ford government, if talking about a couple of years back.
Yeah, thanks, Harin. It's a really good question. So when we started to fund, and there are 17 consumption and treatment sites in the province of Ontario that the province of Ontario funds, we had hoped that there would be more of a focus on treatment. What we have seen, unfortunately, is that the focus so far has been enabling drug use. So moving away from a model that too much relies on allowing illicit drug use and more to ensure that there is pathways to treatment, pathways out of addictions is a really important piece. You know, when we see some of the CTS sites where we have much higher prevalence of crime, higher prevalence of loitering, we've got to do something a little different. And I think it shows real leadership that we look at these existing sites and say, how can we improve them? So even the sites that will continue to operate outside of that 200-meter zone, adjacent to schools and licensed daycares, will still have some additional safety and protocol responsibilities. So some of it is to discourage loitering outside these facilities. Some is more reporting to ensure that the community that continues to host a smaller number of CTS sites is actually being protected and served. I've spoken often about it's not only serving the clients and the individuals who are coming into the sites, but also protecting the neighborhood and protecting the staff who are working with in these sites. Hope that helps.
All right, thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Sarah with VIP 51.
Thanks, Shannon. Hello, Minister. So my question is also about the safety. So could you talk a bit more about how those new hubs will provide safety to the neighbors and local communities? Because this safety are always the residents' priority. Thank you.
Yeah, and it is our priority as well. So as I said, the existing sites as well as the ongoing will have a more stringent protocol in terms of reporting, ensuring that they have stronger and clear responsibilities to the communities that they are cited within. We also have very specific changes that we want to see in terms of how are you as an organization that is hosting a CTS site ensuring that loitering does not continue to be an issue? All of those pieces together, we believe, are going to make the sites that continue to operate again outside of the 200-meter close to schools and licensed daycares continue to be good neighbors, because that's important for us to see.
Thank you.
All right, next I'm going to go to Nitin at Prime Asia.
Thank you, Shannon. Good afternoon, Minister. Minister, these sites, which are called the safe drug consumption sites, and a federal opposition leader mentioned these as the drug dens. There were security concerns. There were many other concerns. The same question, why these sites were allowed to open at the first instance. And also, you have not mentioned about the parks, whether these will be closed 200 meters from the parks also, or is only the daycares and the schools? Thank you.
Yeah, so the 200-meter restriction is very specifically to schools and to licensed daycares. And in terms of why were they opened in the first place, as I said previously, you know, a consumption and treatment site, our hope was that a higher percentage of people who access these sites would have sought treatment or would have been encouraged to seek treatment. What we have seen, unfortunately, is not enough people are choosing treatment as a pathway out of addictions. And I believe strongly, and our government believes strongly, that compassionate care has to go beyond just enabling drug use, normalizing drug use. So that's why there's been a very dramatic shift to ensure that these heart hubs offer a suite of services and do not offer continuing access to illicit drugs.
Sharon, I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, if we can just do it quickly.
Okay, Minister, the WHO declared the Mpox as a emergency. Can you elaborate? Is that an emergency here in Ontario, and is Ontario prepared for this monkeypox, because cases are rising? And what about our borders, our airports? How prepared Ontario is on Mpox? Thank you.
So I've worked very closely with the Chief Medical Officer of Health to ensure that we have sufficient vaccines to protect our most vulnerable and at-risk citizens from Mpox. And I have been assured that we have sufficient supplies of vaccines. I would encourage people, if they are in one of the at-risk categories, to have those conversations with their primary care practitioners, their local public health offices, and take advantage of the vaccines that we have to protect our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So next I'm going to go to Samina with AWA's Entertainment. Samina, are you there? Okay, we'll come back. I'll go to Jasmine with Y Media.
Hello. Hi, Minister. My name is Jasmeet. I'm from Y Media Group. My question to you today is that as a minister, what do you think is the reason for challenges in the area of drug addiction and homelessness? And also, if you could address what the government is doing to tackle these issues of homelessness and drug addiction.
For sure. Jasmine, I made reference to it earlier. We cannot be a society and a government that normalizes drug use, and particularly illicit drug use. So the focus on the heart hubs is to say, you have someone, multiple organizations who want to assist you in your journey to recovery, and we want you to take advantage of these things. We do not want to be a government that allows and continues to normalize illicit drug use in our communities. I think of myself as a young person far too many years ago. I was scared to death of any drug use, and we need to think about that. We need to make sure that our young people, that our friends, our neighbors, our children aren't saying we can try this because it's harmless. It's not harmless. We know the death toll. We know that these are people who need our help, not needing further normalization.
Hello,
Thank
hi
you.
Shannon. You
right.
hear me? My
Yes.
name is Samina.
Yeah, hi, Samina. We'll go to you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my mic is off.
No problem.
Okay. Only I am my one question. How will closing drug use site affect our dose, death and crime rates in our community?
So by closing the sites within the 200 meters of schools and licensed daycares, we're acknowledging that this is not a use that is appropriate where our children play, where our children are learning. Premier Ford and I have spoken to a number of families, a number of parents who say, I can't take my child out to, I'm worried about taking them to daycare. I'm worried about walking them to school because they're seeing used drugs and used needles on the sidewalk in the alleys. We've got to get away from any type of allowing supervised consumption within where children learn and play. So that's a very important component. But we also have to realize that people are truly suffering in our communities because they have either mental health addictions that have led them to mental health problems that have led them to get addicted to illicit drugs. And we need to give them hope. We need to give them pathways to recovery. And the investment that was made earlier this week of $378 million over 3 years is really very strongly focused on that assistance and pathway. And as I said, supportive housing, social assistance, job and training help, primary care. I describe it as if today you need assistance with your health related issues, that will happen at the hub. If next week you need some help with your housing because it's unstable or you need access to, you will get that. And ultimately, of course, if you want help getting out of this addiction, then we're there for you. Our government has been very clear from when Premier Ford came into government, first jurisdiction, Canadian jurisdiction, to have an associate minister responsible for mental health and addictions. We've shown through our actions and our investments an additional 500 treatment beds in the province of Ontario. Youth wellness hubs that really are about prevention and educating our young people so that they don't end up dabbling and getting addicted. Again, something that did not exist under the previous year government. It's Premier Ford and our government that have made those commitments. And I'm incredibly pleased that we've now made an additional investment of $378 million because it's what our municipal partners were looking for. They see the challenges in their downtown cores. They want help to make sure that our friends, our neighbors, our children have a pathway out of addiction.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next, I'm going to go to College Dilemma with My Second Home.
Thank you, Shannon. Mr. Jones, what kind of procedures and arrangements to screen travelers coming from places where Mpox is existed or registered, or let's say is declared epidemic?
So the federal government would have to step in if there was any screening from out of country, but I just want to reassure you and everyone in Ontario that we have sufficient supply of Mpox vaccines. So I would encourage people who are traveling or at risk because they're in an at-risk category to have those conversations with their primary care practitioners, their local public health units, and take advantage of the fact that we have a vaccine for Mpox that will protect you.
Excuse me, maybe I didn't make myself clear a little bit. I'm asking about the procedures at our ports of entry in Canada to screen people arriving from infected countries.
So again, any screening that would have to take place from out of country would be the responsibility of our federal government.
So we don't have right now.
To the best of my knowledge, they have made no action movement forward to screen from countries where Mpox has been on the rise.
Though Minister Jolie has announced that there is additional funding to some places in Africa, they just spend money and without protecting Canadians at the ports of entry.
Well, we're doing everything we can in Ontario. As I said, we have secured sufficient Mpox vaccines, and we will continue to encourage our Ontario and Canadian citizens to take advantage of that very important vaccine that protects.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. So that was the last question I've been told. Oh, Bill with Greca TV, do you have a question?
Thank you, Minister. These are important initiatives of the government that, in my understanding, in our own community, in the Greek community, there's a lot of acceptance in these new initiatives of the government. But let me clarify two things. Can you confirm to me that this investment of 378 millions are in addition to the roadmap wellness investment of the government of $3.8 billion over 10 years that you have announced already? Is that correct?
That is correct, Bill. So the 378 million investment over 3 years will be very specifically targeted and used for the 19 heart hubs, and that is new dollars.
I see. And I hear a lot of criticism from the opposition. Well, that's not strange. That's their role. However, what I want to ask you is that they accuse you of not approving two studies that were forwarded to you. But my understanding is that those reports that you turned down, not closing the existing ones, the supervised ones that you're closing now, as I understand, they did not have the comprehensive view of the government, and your initiative is that not just to give them drugs, but also, as you said, to combine other government services in different ministries as a whole to treat them. Is that correct? Was that the main reason why you did not accept those reports?
Well, it was partly that. It was frankly a lot of data that was coming in from local police services saying that there was an increase in crime around these consumption and treatment sites. It was conversations that Premier Ford and myself have had with parents in those neighborhoods saying this can't go on. I should not be held hostage in my home because I'm afraid to walk down the street. Business people that were expected to be social workers. This can't continue. There is no world where consumption sites are good neighbors to schools and to daycares. And that is why we have not only strengthened the piece around the existing and ongoing CTS sites. Look, in an ideal world, I would love for CTS sites to have much more success on getting people into treatment. That unfortunately has not been the case, which is why we're moving to this new model of homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Lincoln, I just saw you unmute. Did you have a question?
Yes, and it goes back to the mpox. I'm just wondering whether the minister is concerned with the prevalence of COVID now with mpox on the resurgence in other parts of the world. And as my colleague was saying, there are travelers traveling to Canada. Will she still encourage people to take the COVID vaccine along with the mpox vaccine?
We have seen ebbs and flows of COVID in our community, and that will continue. We will continue to offer those vaccines, again, for people who make the determination that it is right for them. I really hope that if you are in one of those high-risk areas, communities, that you take advantage of the vaccines that Ontario has procured, whether it is for flu, if you're senior elderly, whether it is for COVID, and of course for mpox. We spend a lot of money in the province of Ontario to keep people healthy and keep people safe. And ultimately, we need people to make those determinations personally, to decide and ultimately action on. And I will say, some of the changes that we've been able to make, whether it is ensuring that, for example, our pharmacists can offer more of these vaccines so that you don't have to go to a public health unit, you don't have to go to a primary care physician. We've expanded access because we want people to make those personal health choices to keep themselves and their families safe.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you. That was our last question. if anybody else had a question, if they wanted to raise their hand, otherwise we will wrap up for the afternoon. Okay, well, Minister Jones, I will just give it back to you if you have any final words, and then we will close for the afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for your time, everyone, and thank you for your interest. There's no doubt that there have been some challenges in terms of making sure that people have access to mental health and addiction services. And I think that this week's announcement is a very positive step towards bringing all of those great organizations that work on many different pieces are going to come together, and we're going to have some great applications and ultimately some great heart hubs across Ontario.
All right, thank
All
you.
right. Thank
Please,
you.
please message me if you need the recording, or send me an email and I will get it over to you. All right, thanks everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.